So Jamal, Sean Mahone got hurt last week. Jake Long got an extended run. Just give me your thoughts on Jake, because that may be about as much defensive action as he's seen. So just
Right.
wondering what you thought of him.
Yeah, well, Jake's done a nice job really starting at camp, almost summer prep of really just trying to make sure when the opportunity presented itself that he would be prepared. He's a guy who's always asked questions, always looking to get the details, and so he got the opportunity, right? Always next man up, and he was able to execute and get us out of a ball game, and that's what we ask of him, and he was able to do so, and so we'd hope that he continues to grow on that and gain some confidence from there and continue to roll on should we need him in the future.
Next question is from Ryan Pritt.
Hey, Coach, you guys have played a couple run-heavy attacks here early in Big 12 play. Oklahoma State with Chuba, now Kansas.
Right.
Do you feel like that's given you guys a little bit of a unique chance to focus the back end more on run support than normal? And how do you kind of assess how you guys have made progress in that area so far?
Right. Well, that's looking back at Oklahoma State. That's probably one of the things that we would have changed coming out of that one, was just the fact that we were a little bit more pass cognizant than maybe we were run, and hurt us late in the game there. And so, I probably go against the question in that I think in that game we were probably too much pass heavy and not enough in the run support. Obviously learned our lesson there, and so, we'll continue to make sure that we're shored up in the pass game. We're definitely not gonna let that go. But we've got to be balanced in that and make sure that we're able to have the numbers on both the run and pass game. This team presents the same problems. If you sit in there in the box, they've got receivers that can go vertical. Physically, they've shown even in last year's game that they have the ability to separate and create plays for themselves. And so, going to be the same issues. It's on us as defensive staff to scheme it up, put them in positions in which no one's in conflict and guys can see the ball, get the ball, and play fast. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, Kevin, we'll go to you.
Coach, when we're talking about disruptive plays on defense, usually the focus is on the defensive line, getting in the backfield, things like that.
Right.
On the back end, though, pass breakups, rerouting,
Right.
receivers, things like that. What
Right.
kind of things do you emphasize for your players back there to be disruptive?
Yeah. Well, we definitely don't want free runners, right? For receivers love free releases. They love to be able to run with easy access. And so the one thing that we've done, really starting in camp, and Coach Kuntz and really Coach Wright have done a heck of a job even with their underneath droppers in terms of getting their hands on guys and not allowing them to run through zones. And that's important. Obviously, we want to match routes, but if you can eliminate the route, that's even more the better, right? And so that's part of our defensive scheme. I think if you watch tape, you'll see that the guys underneath are playing physical, which is helping the over-the-top coverage in terms of allowing them to really be able to keep a cap on the defense. And again, that's something that we harp on throughout practice, and hopefully it continues to show up on game day.
John, we'll go to you.
Hey, Coach, with a guy like Puka, I'm guessing gang tackling, angles are all very important. And what did you do last year that you were able to slow him down a little bit, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we've got the Jimmies up front, right? We've got some guys that can really make some plays and do some things and really kick up some dust. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is Coach Leslie's done a heck of a job, not to put the pressure on him, but did a heck of a job last year, and I would imagine again this year, and putting those guys in position to make plays, making sure we're sound. As long as we've got the numbers to fit the schemes that present themselves, it usually fares the way it has in the past. Again, we know that they're not gonna concede or give the win, right? So we'll probably see some things that have some wrinkles or some differences in them, and it's on us to make sure we put sound rules to what we're doing defensively so that it matches whatever they give us. And again, Coach Leslie's done a heck of a job with the front end, being able to do that in the first matchup, and that's the goal in the second one.
Real quick, they announced Kendrick quarterback. Is he like an extra running back there? How do you prep for him?
Yeah, exactly what you said. I mean, he's got the ability to do both, and that's the reason why that type of guy is a want or necessity for about every offense in the country right now. Is that adds an element that defenses hate preparing for, and quite honestly, it's tough to defend. You can have everything wrapped up, and then this guy moves the chains just with his feet, or keeps a play active with his feet. And so, again, as we all know, those present their own problems in themselves.
Last thing here, does he make a guy like Puka better because he's an extra guy you have to account for all 11 guys when you got a running quarterback?
100%. 100%. When you normally, right, the old school way of fitting defenses and making sure you're sound, especially in the run game, you didn't necessarily have to account for that quarterback. And when you add that number, it changes some things. And so they have that number, and he's pretty elite at what they ask him to do when he pulls that ball. And so we've got to be sound, and our guys are working to do so.
Okay, Cody, go ahead.
So with a guy like Andrew Parchment, obviously last year we saw he's talented.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't had great numbers this year. I think he's still below 100 yards.
Right.
How important is it to not fall asleep on him just because he hasn't had the numbers so far this year?
You answered it for me. Don't fall asleep. That's exactly what you can't do. It's pretty obvious that the kid has talent, has big playability. Again, as you said, showed it in last year's game. And there's times this year where he's open and running free. And so, our guys aren't going to take it lightly. We understand the challenge that's presented with the receivers that they have on the skill positions on offense. And so we're going to line up like we do every week, right, and make sure that we're locked in, zeroed in, and playing technique sound football. And if we do that, we'll like the result. If we don't, we won't. That's the brass tacks of it all.
Go ahead, Greg.
So Jahmile, I assume that in the open week, you had some extra practice time with the true freshmen and some of the young guys. So just your assessment of what you saw out of those guys in maybe some scrimmage situations?
Yeah. Daryl Porter's been a guy, he's really impressed, really from day one. Freshman who you'd like to have the ability to sit him down and let him mature in a sense. But he showed the big playability, showed the ability to go get the ball in the air, and this past week was no different. As you said, got extended reps and was really able to get in there with the ones and show what he has. And he's continued to do that all along. I have no problem with playing him, should it come down to that. And so, this week was really just reassurance in that matter. Jackie Matthews is another guy who is not a freshman, but has kind of been on the back burner a little bit for us in terms of the corner position, who, again, got some really meaningful time this week. And, is better for it all. And so, you get a bye week and you like to turn it into somewhat of a short camp in which you can continue to sharpen your skills. And Coach gave us the opportunity to do that all week last week. And we feel good about it all. Really do.
Okay, Mike, last one goes to you.
Jahmile, if I can add one more name to that list, haven't heard a whole lot of David Vincent Okoli so far.
Yeah.
Just probably similar curve for Daryl, I'm guessing, but just wanted to ask him about that. And then similarly, where do you stand as a coach about, left corner, right corner, field boundary, or locking the guy, you're one, I'm their number one?
Right. So David Okoli, young kid, very talented, just has some maturation that obviously he's needing to go through as a freshman. And, some guys, they progress a little bit faster than maybe others. For him, it's come a little bit slower, being that he played all offense really in high school. And so while all the tools are there, right now it's on me to continue to prepare him and get him to where he wants to be. I think the final product there will be what we want here at West Virginia University. Just not there yet. And David knows that, and we'll continue to work until we get there. That's what that comes down to. In terms of left and right corner, I've never really been a huge fan of it all. I'd like to think that both guys that I put on the field are good enough to win with, and we'll prepare them in that way. There's been times where the matchup maybe calls for it, but very few and far between as those times presented themselves in my career for me. But again, that's just my thinking.